Hi, good morning, everyone. This is Trina here to discuss about groundwater, the aquifers, hydraulic gradient, and the Darcy's law, and also the groundwater pollution due to arsenic and fluoride. And in my personal information, I have given my mobile number and email ID. So if you have any doubt, you can communicate with me. And the most important part, that is the course page. So here I have uploaded all the study materials, the probable questions, the solved answer, and the semester questions. So first of all, you need to join with this code, then you can access all these materials. The subject name is Environmental Science, subject code MC301 for odd semester, MC401 for even semester. And this course is for undergraduate BTech students, and the streams are CSE, IT, Civil, Mechanical, and BME. And about the course objective and outcome, the students will be able to understand the natural environment and its relationship with human activities. They will be able to apply the fundamental knowledge of science and engineering to assess environmental and health risk. They will be able to understand environmental laws and regulations to develop guidelines and procedures for health and safety issues. They will be able to solve scientific problem solving related to air, water, noise, and land pollution. So our graduates will take the responsibility to save our Mother Earth. They will acquire skills for scientific problem solving related to air, water, noise, and land pollution. So this is the total syllabus is given here. For general part, this is 6 lectures. And for air pollution, 7 lectures. And for water pollution, also 7 lectures. And today I will tell about the 3 section 3.4, that is groundwater. Today I will cover this part, section 3.4, the groundwater. It includes aquifers, hydraulic gradients, groundwater flow, groundwater pollution due to arsenic and fluoride. After water pollution, there are the chapters. This is land pollution and noise pollution. And at last, you will get the reference books are given. So you can avail these books from the library. Next, the entire lesson plan is given. That is the day wise, the topics will be covered. This plan is given here. So water pollution, that is the module 3, and the topic is the groundwater. Okay, so what is groundwater? So groundwater is the water found underground in the cracks and space in soil, sand, and rock. It is stored in and moves slowly through geologic formation of soil, sand, and rocks called aquifers. So how the groundwater is stored? So formation of groundwater occurs mainly by two processes. Number one, the seeping of river and stream water, and number two, the direct seeping of rainwater. So we get the groundwater. Now, the groundwater has different layers. So in the underground water, first we tell about the underground, that means which remains under soil. So first, in the soil, we get the water that is called soil water. Next is, you can see here, that is the unsaturated zone. Here you can see that is the unsaturated zone. Basically, this contains not only water, it also contains the lots amount of air. That is why it is called unsaturated zone. And next zone, that is called saturated zone. Saturated zone, that is fully saturated by water. So the water in the unsaturated zone is called Vedus water. The water in the unsaturated zone, I told, that is called Vedus water. And the water in the saturated zone, that is called the groundwater. This is our underground water. And you can see the imaginary line between the saturated zone and unsaturated zone. So this boundary is called water table. So here is a dotted line. You can see the dotted line. So this boundary is called as water table. Now, there is the transition between the saturated zone and unsaturated zone. So this transition is called fringe capillary. So at the last, after this groundwater, there is a layer that is called aquitard, that is less permeable. Almost you can say that it is not permeable. Water cannot flow through it, this layer. So this is called aquitard. So you have understood that how water remains under soil. So next is, what is aquifer? So aquifer can be defined as the saturated geologic layer which is permeable enough to allow water to flow with ease through it. So it is the saturated geologic layer. You have learned in the previous figure, we can see again, in this figure you have seen there is the saturated zone and unsaturated zone. So what is aquifer? Aquifer is can be defined as the saturated geologic layer which is permeable enough. That means it is permeable and water can flow through it very easily. And the aquifer sits top of the aquitard. Aquitard I have defined earlier that it is the less permeable layer through which water cannot go through. So this that means the aquifer sits on the aquitard. So at the bottom we get the aquitard and the aquifer sits on this aquitard. Now this aquifer is of two types. One is confined aquifer, another is unconfined aquifer. So the confined aquifer is one aquifer below the land surface that is saturated with water. Layers of impermeable material are both above and below the aquifer. So what you can see, that if both the side is covered by boundary, that is called confined aquifer. So this one is the confined aquifer, because it has the two boundary above and below. An unconfined aquifer, that is the unconfined aquifer. So it has the boundary below this aquifer, but upper side is the open. So for the confined aquifer, causing it to the pressure, and so that when the aquifer is penetrated by well, the water will rise above the top of the aquifer. So the confined aquifer, it remains under high pressure. If we penetrate, then we will get like the spring, and it is the we will get the well. And unconfined aquifer, I told that one side is there is the boundary at the below, but top side is open. So unconfined aquifers are those into which water seeps from the ground surface directly above the aquifer. Confined aquifers are those in which an impermeable rock layer exists that prevents water from seeping into the aquifer from ground surface located directly above. So you have learned that what is aquifer and what are the classification of aquifer. That is, one is confined, another is unconfined. Now you will learn the hydraulic gradient. So what is hydraulic gradient? In an unconfined aquifer, the slope of water table in the direction of steepest chain is called hydraulic gradient. So if you observe this figure, so what happens in this figure, that the water table is inclined. So the height, it is inclined. So is this water table, the height of this, differ from the datum level? So if we take the initial height, say this one is the Z1. It is shown that is the Z1. And this one next is say Z2. This is Z2. So the value differs. So this is higher, Z1 is higher, and Z2 is lower. So automatically you can say the in which direction the water will flow. From the hydraulic gradient, we can say in which direction water will flow, because water generally will flow from the higher altitude to the lower altitude. So here you can see the water will flow in the higher altitude to the lower altitude. So hydraulic gradient is very important. And how we can calculate hydraulic gradient? So this is the formula, that is the HA minus HB, that is the height, initial height, and then the final height of the water table. So here you can see the water table. This one is the water table. It is the steepest slope, we can say this is the water table. So it is going down. So this one is the H1. This is H1. And this height is HB. First one is HA and second one is HB. So we can tell that what is the difference of this height, that is HA minus HB, and this distance is called L. Okay, so hydraulic gradient is the del H by L. So in this way, we can calculate hydraulic gradient and we can say that in which direction water will flow. So next, we will learn the Darcy's law, by which we can say the pattern of the groundwater flow. So permeability by Darcy's law, that is equal to Q is equal to K into A into HA, H1 minus H2 divided by L. So this H1 minus H2, H1 minus H2 by L, that is the hydraulic gradient. So Q is the volumetric flow rate, unit is meter square per second, and HA is the cross-sectional area of the medium. It may be sandpack. Here we have written it is sandpack. It is the medium, the surface area of the cross-sectional area of the medium. And H1 minus H2 by L, that is the hydraulic gradient. So Q is proportional to A, and A is the surface, that is cross-sectional area and hydraulic gradient. And K is the constant, that is hydraulic conductivity, that is a meter per second. So we take the different medium and the permeability depends on that. Like if we take the sand, then it will be more permeable than clay. So the water will flow rapidly through sand than clay, comparative to clay. So in this way, the permeability factor determine the groundwater flow. So it depends on the medium through which the water is flowing. So you have learned these three definitions very well. So you can define, you can give the picture of the aquifer, of hydraulic gradient, and the Darcy's law. Now, the groundwater pollution. So groundwater pollution occurs when pollutants are released to the ground and make their way down into groundwater. So this type of water pollution can also occur naturally due to the presence of a minor and unwanted constituents, contaminant and impurity in the groundwater. In which case it is more likely referred as the contamination rather than pollution. So here basically you know that from the old age we depend on groundwater. Why? Because it is free from different types of microbial contamination. That is why we generally preferred from our old days groundwater for our drinking purpose. And you can see this picture, but feel that if this water is contaminated by, let's say like arsenic, then what will happen? So now our scenario is very bad and very dangerous for us, because due to the over exploitation of the groundwater, because we are careless to exploit the groundwater, to extract the groundwater, and that is why the rocks, basically the arsenic comes from the rocks, so it is coming with the groundwater. So the arsenic pollution in the water. So we will learn today the arsenic pollution and fluoride pollution in groundwater. So arsenic is a natural component of Earth's crust and is widely distributed throughout the environment in the in the air, water, and land, and it is highly toxic in its inorganic form. And what is the maximum permissible limit for arsenic? It is 10 ppb. 10 ppb for drinking water. So if it is less than 10 ppb, then it is not harmful. But if it is more than 10 ppb, then it is very much harmful. And also for India, we maintain that we does not maintain 10 ppb. Generally, we maintain like 50 ppb for drinking water. But we should maintain that 10 ppb for maximum contamination level, the MCL for arsenic, that is 10 ppb. And people are exposed to elevated levels of inorganic arsenic through drinking contaminated water, using contaminated water in food preparation and irrigation of food crops, industrial processing, eating contaminated food, and smoking tobacco. So basically, not only it is the hazardous for the water, we are using this water for the crop production. So the arsenic is coming into our rice also. So this is very much dangerous. And what we can do? Okay, so here you can see the world scenario that the different countries are contaminated by arsenic. So it is a global concern. And arsenic generally remains in the form of the valency is 3 and 5, arsenas and arsenic. And that means the valency 3 is more harmful. And when we do the removal process, we convert the 3 into the 5, valency 5. And it has different types of toxic effects. So initially, when the people are contaminated to arsenic, they will have like melanosis, keratosis, the black pigmentation on skin. But if it is continuous, for long-term effect of arsenic, the people may have the cancer. So it is carcinogenic, and who has declared the contamination level, that means it must be below 10 ppb. Long-term exposure to arsenic may also cause cancers of the bladder and lungs. The International Agency for Research on Cancer has classified arsenic and arsenic compounds as carcinogenic to humans, and has also started that arsenic in drinking water is carcinogenic to humans. So we have to control this. So there is no medicine that the people already exposed to arsenic or contaminated by arsenic pollution. So what we have to do, we have to be very aware about that. That means we have to use the safe drinking water. We have to take the pure drinking water. So we can do that, means different removal process. We have to do the different types of water testing process. That means this water is contaminated or not. That first we have to determine. So the most important action in affected communities is the prevention of further exposure to arsenic by the provision of a safe water supply for drinking, food preparation, and irrigation of food crops. There are a number of options to reduce levels of arsenic in drinking water. and substitute high arsenic sources such as groundwater with low arsenic, microbiologically safe sources such as rainwater and treated surface water. Low arsenic water can be used for drinking, cooking, and irrigation purposes, whereas high arsenic water can be used for other purposes such as bathing and washing clothes. But bathing and washing is not safe. Okay, bathing and washing also not safe, because if somebody, the skin is exposed to the arsenic contaminated water, there will be also problem. So there is no other way other than prevention. And there are different procedures for the removal, like say membrane technology, adsorption process, ion exchange process, and also the hybrid technology. So in this way, we have to purify the water, then only we can use this water. Next is fluoride pollution in water. The major minerals of fluoride found in hard rock are fluorite, apatite, cryolite, etc. It is not only the presence of mineral, but also the hydrogeological conditions contribute more towards the mobilization of fluoride in groundwater. Alkaline groundwaters generally tend to solubilize fluoride minerals. Fluoride-rich groundwaters generally have more magnesium than calcium. And salinity build-up due to extensive irrigation also contribute to fluoride in groundwater. Example, Haryana, Punjab, states such as AP, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, UP, West Bengal. The occurrence of high fluoride is due to prevailing hydrological conditions. Anthropogenic sources contributing to fluoride are mainly mining activities, phosphate fertilizer, effluents. Globally, fluoride in groundwater is mostly due to geogenic in nature, and maximum permissible limit for fluoride in drinking water, that is 1.5 milligram per liter. So over 100 animal studies showing that prolonged exposure to varying levels of fluoride can damage the brain, particularly when coupled with an iodine deficiency and aluminium excess. So you can understand that how dangerous it is. And due to the fluoride, we get the disease that is called fluorosis. And fluoride causes 3 types of fluorosis. You can see here the dental fluorosis, skeletal fluorosis, and non-skeletal fluorosis. So how it can be controlled? The control of fluoride pollution and fluorosis is one of the most important issues for drinking water safety. In the past several decades, many initiatives taken but failed in defluoridation of water. So we can do defluoridation. Better understanding of fluoride occurrence mechanism in underground water chemistry and the prediction of high risk areas by geographic information and remote sensing are the crucial importance to minimize fluorosis occurrence. So we have to determine that where the fluorosis is present, fluoride ion is present, we have to use that the water, alternate water, which does not contain fluoride. We can do the rainwater harvesting same way. For the arsenic also, we have told that we can use the rainwater by the harvesting, and we can use the surface water after a few treatment process. So that is better if we want to avoid the different types of heavy metals which is present in the groundwater, and we can take some purification process that is also very costly. So in our country, this the rainwater harvesting is very much important. So if I summarize what you have learned today, So you have learned number 1, that what is groundwater, the structure and features of the groundwater like unsaturated zone, saturated zone, the Vedos water and the soil water, underground water, all these things you have learned. Then you have learned the what is aquifers, what is confined aquifers, what is unconfined aquifers. Then you have learned the hydraulic gradient and how it determines the flow direction. You have learned the Darcy's law and the groundwater flow. And also you have learned the pollution regarding arsenic and fluoride. So now let's see that the question given you can answer or not, you have learned or not. So number 1, define aquifer. That is very easy. So you can tell that is the saturated zone and permeable zone which sits on the aquitard. Aquitard is less permeable layer. What do you mean by confined and unconfined aquifers? So confined means both the side, upper and lower, there is the boundary, and unconfined means in the down, that means below there is boundary, but upper side, upper surface is open. Define, number 2, the define hydraulic gradient along with number 2, the define hydraulic gradient along with expression. So hydraulic gradient, you will say the expression is H1 minus H2 divided by L. So the steepest slope of the water table, that is the hydraulic gradient. So this is equal to H1 minus H2 divided by L, the distance. So this height we take from the datum level, and the expression you can write. And how it determine the flow of the water? Because it will flow from the higher direction to the lower direction. Water always will flow from higher direction to the lower direction. Number 3, the define Darcy's law. How it determine the groundwater flow of water. So Darcy's law, you have to tell that Q, the flow rate of the water, is proportional to A into hydraulic gradient. A means the cross-sectional area of the medium. And the hydraulic gradient, you know, that is the H1 minus H2 divided by L. And K is the permeability constant, permeability index. So how it determines if the permeability, that means the flow will be more, flow rate will be more if the medium is more permeable, and flow rate will be less if the medium is less permeable. I have given the example like sand is more permeable than clay. Okay, next is write down the effect of groundwater pollution due to arsenic and fluoride. So you can describe that what are the effect of the groundwater pollution due to arsenic and fluoride, and you also can describe that how we can control it. Okay, students, so I hope that you have enjoyed my class, you have understood all the topics, and you now go through the study material and submit the assignment. And if you have any doubt, you can communicate with me. So for today, I am ending the session. Thank you.